Getting accepted into a top university in today's market is nearly impossible. Yet, you can do it by utilizing a correct set of novel strategies to break out of the 99.99% of applicants. This right here is those set of elite strategies that I promise you won't find anywhere else. My name is Joaquin Revello. I got a perfect 45 in the IB diploma in high school, and I'm a current student at the UPenn Wharton dual degree engineering program known as the M&T, which has a, I don't even know, roughly 2 to 1% acceptance rate, something insane like that. They only accept 50 people. Understand that the university admission game is quickly changing, and after the entire show that was 2020 and then 2021 with test optional and just everything that happened in the world during that amount of time, it's getting even more competitive. And now with the advancement of AI, as well as multiple other trends of technology, it's going to get even harder. You need to understand that the days where you can simply send in your application and hopefully get in are gone. They are over. We live in a ruthless market right now where you're competing against all the other students who are trying to get into your top elite universities, such as Harvard, MIT, and the rest of it. And a lot of the strategies that I hear on YouTube and that are taught by counselors and that I hear in all these schools and in the internet, they are largely outdated. They are not fit for the current market that we live in today. And I'm not here to say that they're wrong, all right? They probably worked a few years ago, but the world has changed so incredibly quickly in the past 4 years that a lot of the strategies that I would have done in high school likely just is not competitive anymore. So what is instead? Well, you need to understand that my goal was always to get into my dream university of the M&T program. Yet I was not naturally smart. In fact, I got predicted an average grade based on my IQ. So my IQ is about average. I'm not actually smart. I'm not actually gifted. I have the exact same 24 hours as everyone else. But the one thing I was able to leverage and the one thing I was able to utilize effectively was how I allocated my attention. And that right there is the currency of the new age. That is the currency of the post-SAT focused world. How do we allocate our attention? And more importantly, how do we allocate our attention towards our extracurriculars? Because that right there is the largest point of leverage. Let me explain exactly what that means. Before I get into that, you need to understand a few things about the current market. The first of which is that high school is a competition. Getting into your top university is a competition, all right? Understand that by you getting in, by you getting accepted into Harvard, by you getting accepted into MIT, into Johns Hopkins, into Cambridge, into Oxford, into any of these universities, somebody else is losing. Why is that? It's because the actual physical university itself only has a limited amount of spots. I know that UPenn has less than about 10K spots. So you are competing against everybody else to get one of those 10K spots. So by you winning, somebody else is losing. And if you lose, understand that you're losing to a pile of people who are all competing to one spot that somebody else managed to get. The mindset shift that I offer to you with regards to getting into this top universities is that you should not be trying your best. You should not try your best. I hear this all the time that you need to be trying your best, and if you try your best, you're okay and you're a flower and the rest of it. This is such a bitchy, Jerry attitude perpetuated by weak human beings. You should not be trying your best, because this oftentimes leads to the excuse. Like, let's say you don't get accepted. This leads to the excuse that I'm just trying as hard as I can. Like I tried to get accepted. I tried the hardest I can. I became my best, but I still did not get accepted, right? It's an excuse. It's a way of delegating what should have been your fault to some type of invisible third party, right? Simply because I tried my best, I should have gone in, hence I was entitled to get in. That is a weak attitude, because you need to understand that if you want to get into Harvard, and I mentioned this earlier, but you need to beat 25 other people. So you should not do your best, but instead you should do what's required. Because if your best is worse than 4% of the people who applied to Harvard, you have a 100% chance of failure. If your best is worse, meaning if you're less qualified than the other 4% of people who applied to Harvard, you have a 100% chance of not getting in, 100% chance of failure. So instead of doing your best, do what's required. Now, you need to understand that your competition, okay, in the past, it was just there was only a select few of ambitious students who wanted to get into Harvard, and it was chill, and they just sent in their 45, and there were other universities as well. Right now, your competition is a ruthless sea of ultra high achieving students. You are competing against legions and legions of hard-working students. Do you think that these students don't work as hard as possible? Do you think that these students are not smart? Do you think that these students are not trying as much as they possibly can? This is why every single time I hear this excuse that nobody can outwork me, or I'm gonna just outwork everybody, or I'm just gonna work as hard as possible, this drives me absolutely insane, because you're basically just trying to flex your self-worth, your own ego, on how many hours you can put in. And if you're competing against hundreds of thousands of other students who are applying to these top universities, in fact, you're competing against even more, like 200,000 students who are applying to these top universities, simply thinking that you're going to outwork everybody is such an ego thing. And it's not the differentiating factor between getting accepted and not getting accepted. That is not what's going to get you in. But alas, you say, all right, maybe I'm not going to work longer, but instead I'm going to work harder. Again, understand that some of the most insane competitors that you have in this university admission game are doing literally everything that they can. In fact, I saw this news report where desperate New York City parents are spending millions, lying, they're going across the country, they're moving to a different state in the US to get their kids into an Ivy League school. Now, this needs to concern you, because especially when we have Harvard at 3.41% or Stanford at at 3.68, or Yale at 4.35, or MIT at 4.7. This should concern you because the majority of students that I see, they play this entire game like a lottery, right? Where they just put in their token and hope that they get the lucky number. So understand that despite these insane circumstances, this is what you're up against. This is your competition. Look at it as a competition. You're trying to compete against other students in your demographic area. Now, this is where you can actually win with this. If you have a community of other high achieving students who are not from your demographic area, but are from other parts of the world, this is where you can collaborate and get a huge advantage with your ECs in pushing yourself up, which is why I suggest you check out our training academy, our Discord community down below. Applying, you can get one-on-one mentorship with myself, as well as accountability checkups with other Ivy League students, or just want to meet other top performing students in that community. You can do so by clicking in the link down below. But understand that there still is hope, because right now the biggest opportunity does not lie in your SAT scores or in your grades, in your 4.0 or in your IB scores. That is not where the opportunity lies. In fact, every single person I know in these top universities, in mine in particular, they're all valedictorians. They all have 4.8 GPAs. They all are doing 16 AP courses, 17 AP courses. The score is not what's going to differentiate you. The competition in today's university admission market are for sure your extracurriculars. So the objective with all of this is to help you get that perfect 4.0 GPA, number one, then help you get that perfect 1600 SAT. And then this is the third point. You want to get those two with as little time and with as little effort as you possibly can. And when you do that, you now have all that time, this vacuum of time that you can allocate towards your extracurriculars. In fact, you can allocate all of that towards maximizing those ECs, maximizing the output, making them look and building them up to be absolutely ginormous. That's where you want to be allocating all your time towards, that extracurricular output. So the question is, how do I build these ECs into absolute monsters? Right? This is how you do it right here. You want to be thinking of your ECs from the perspective of an entrepreneur. All right. This is the misconception I see all the time with students when they think about entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is not about selling a product. Entrepreneurship is not about having the best marketing campaign. Entrepreneurship is all about working with people, building teams, creating a target, an innovation target for the team to move towards. That's what entrepreneurship is about. And when it comes to inspiring a team of people, you need to have this following mindset, and it's the mindset of becoming a quitter. Entrepreneurship in many cases is the act of quitting. All right, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to build a business. When you first start building a business, you're going to need to do everything, right? You're going to need to sell, you're going to need to market, you're going to need to take out the trash, you're going to need to manage the accounting. But once you start getting a little bit of sales going, you delegate out the accounting. Then you get a little bit more sales going, then you delegate the janitorial services. Then you get a little bit more sales going and you delegate the entire sales team. And then entrepreneurship is really about finding individuals to fulfill those roles and then quitting your way out of that organization until you only need to make a few executive decisions. That's what entrepreneurship is about. And I want you to identify your extracurriculars from a very similar frame of how can I build something up and then contribute my most valuable skill, right? We talk about the 3 most valuable skills that you're going to have to then showcase to the university admissions officer, right? The 3 words that the university admission officer is going to use. You want to ask yourself what those 3 words are, and then look at your ECs and ask yourself, what do I do that nobody else can do? What is my role in this endeavor, in this extracurricular work that I'm working on that best leverages those 3 skills? And then everything that is not one of those 3 skills, you want to find someone who's also competent in that to delegate that away. And this is where you can get incredible synergies by working with other high achieving individuals. Because you need to understand that if you were to look at all your extracurriculars right now, okay, just look at them. If you have a list of 10, maybe 10 for your Common App, write those out. If one of my ECs is all about this nonprofit that I run, what is stopping me from growing this nonprofit to be the biggest nonprofit on the entire world? Like, what is that thing that is stopping me from growing that? This right here is the secret that you've been looking for. In fact, 0.01% of students ever do this. Nobody in high school who did this. I knew maybe 2 or 3 people here in the UPenn University who do this. And this is the secret, okay? It's that most ECs fail to grow because the student becomes the bottleneck to that growth, right? Your nonprofit that is not growing, ask yourself, if you were to leave that nonprofit, meaning that if you were to be gone and could no longer spend your time at that nonprofit, would that nonprofit still grow? Would that club on the side still grow? Would that business that you're working on still grow? Would that YouTube channel that you want to grow, would that still grow if you remove yourself completely? And if the answer is no, then you are the bottleneck. The reason why it's unable to grow is because you are the bottleneck of that business. Ultimately, you want to get yourself to a state where you are no longer the bottleneck of that business. You want to remove yourself completely. And then what you have going on is you have 10 different ECs that are all just running in the background, that are all just building themselves up without you needing to allocate any time towards them. Unfortunately, I made this change way too late. Okay, this was at the end of my grade 11 year when I truly realized the power of what I like to call foreground and background processes. If you've ever built an OS operating system, you might know what I'm talking about. In short, a background process is some work that is going on in the background, right? We don't see it as the user interacting with the computer if you look at it from the perspective of the console, right? We're not interacting with it, it's just moving on in the background. Okay, your ECs can be thought of in a very similar way, where if you have things that are just growing in the background without you really needing to contribute, or you only contribute a small amount of time, and in short, you are not the bottleneck to that growth, these ECs can just continue to grow even when you're swamped, even when you have tons of work, even when you have your admission essays due and then your tests and the rest of it. These ECs still grow in the background. And just to reiterate again, if you have a team of 5 people working on your ECs, you basically have 5 times the amount of time that you otherwise would have. And you can remove yourself from that extracurricular and still get 5 times the amount of work done. So in short, the biggest opportunity for you, and I've never seen this explained by anybody in the high school study skill type of space, is that you want to identify what your 3 words are. Right? What are the 3 words that you want the university admissions officer to remember about your application? How do you want them to think about you? What do you want them to say are your strengths? What is the most valuable thing you're going to bring to the university? How do they know that you're a good fit to the university culture? And just as a side note right here, every university has its own persona. Harvard is the intellectual man. UPenn is the sweaty, high-achieving business owner or the consulting quant trader. Princeton is the old money type of look, right? So every single of these top universities has a persona to it. If you can showcase to the university that you're a good fit because your persona in some way aligns with the core values of that personality of the university, you're much more likely to get in. So ultimately, find out what those 3 words are and then delegate everything else. You want to get to a point where all your ECs are growing, where you are not the bottleneck. Now, how exactly do you do this? Okay, if you want to know about some more tactical implementations, please join the training academy down below. I'll give you a very brief overview. Number 1, you can find other teammates of your age to work together with, right? This is likely the most unreliable, but it can be the most fruitful in that you make more friends, in that you utilize your skills and their skills, and there's a synergy between that. So you just focus on what you're best in, and then the entire enterprise can grow. That's number 1. The second thing, and this is slightly an uncomfortable truth, okay? Most people don't want to be told this, but you need to understand that the person who has the most money, who can spend the most, will always win. I'll say that again. The person who can spend the most money will always win. This is why people who spend the most on tutoring in the SAT get the best score. In fact, there was a direct correlation between the score you get on your SAT and your household income level. And what you need to understand is that if you have the resources, if you have the money necessary to delegate a lot of the work to actual employees, to actual individuals helping you out that are paid, it's a huge advantage. I'll give you an example with my YouTube channel of the World Scholars Cup that I ran in high school, that we got like 200K views or something like that. Long story short, I ended up hiring an entire team to edit the videos, to make the thumbnails, to just do everything. And the only thing I had to do was speak to the camera for 20-30 minutes every single week. So instead of it taking me 9 hours to do that, I hired a team offshore and they worked on that in their own time. Now, the question is, who paid for that? I did. I went to my piggy bank, I had a bunch of money saved from my grandma and the rest of it, and I just invested that into my own time, right? Because think of what you're doing right here. You're basically buying back time that you can be allocating towards your most important priorities, towards becoming a strong individual, towards building the things that actually make the biggest difference, which in this case would be those skills that you need to allocate towards your extracurricular. This is why it's so valuable to look at your ECs from the perspective of a business builder, from the perspective of an entrepreneur, because you can ask yourself that, hey, my time as a high school student trying to get into a top university is actually somewhat valuable. In fact, I remember they did a study where if you get into your top university, the average income that you make over your entire life increases by about like $1 million, something like that, if you get into an Ivy League university. So if you're gonna make $1 million for the rest of your life, what is the 2 years of your last 2 years of high school worth if you can then make $1 million for the rest of your life in additional income? So when you look at it from that perspective, you can tell yourself that, hey, sure, I can spend $1,000 on an offshore team and just save me hours upon hours upon hours of time. And here's the most important part, you also get a higher quality project, because you need to understand that as a high school student, unfortunately, you're not that good at anything. Right? Myself, when I was in high school, I was not that good at most of the stuff that I thought I was good at. Okay, I thought I was a good video editor. Turns out I was not. I thought I was a good coder. Turns out I was not. So instead of trying to do it all myself, I can leverage all the talent that's already being built up with professionals in the field, put that into my own extracurriculars, and then build it up from there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and Grizzlies and Cubs and Giga Grizzlies, is how you get this done. Those are the secrets. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions at all, please leave them down below. I respond not as fast as in the Discord community. All right, so if you want to get part of the Training Academy, the Discord community, you can apply in the link down below. Please apply, because that's where I can get to know you more on a one-on-one level. And if you have any questions there, we have weekly trains and the rest of it, and you can ask me. So I'm much more responsive in that domain, so you can apply down below. And until next time, stay grizzly, everybody. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.